Gather round, adventurers, and prepare for a tale like none other. But before we do that, my name is Harrison Weiss, and I'm the Dungeon Master of the Tides of Terragos podcast. I'm also the primary editor. This started as a passion project of mine, where I brought on 3 guys, and we really just started playing D&D, learning it together. And over time, we got better at playing D&D. Let's say better. Long story short, some of our earlier episodes are not up to par for my standard of listening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize the first 10 episodes of this podcast right here on this episode, so you don't have to go anywhere. What I want you to do is start here, finish this episode, and then start on episode 11. With that said, if you want to listen to episodes 1 through 10, they'll still be there. They're just not as action-packed or as well edited, so don't hold it against me. If you're brand new to D&D, another great place to start would be in Season 2. Season 2 starts at episode 54. That party is all brand new D&D players, so we go through a lot more of the rules and learning how to play than we do in Season 1. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the summary. Season 1 begins with the 3 main characters all being accepted into Dr. Agan University. It's usually pronounced as Dragon University.
So hey, this is Harrison Clark. I play Art, a ranger who is a bit of a social outcast, has very little manners, but does have some pretty intense survival skills.
My name's Will. I play as Loaf, a human wizard who enjoys pastries and using spells. Loaf's morals are subject to changing depending on the circumstances. He believes nothing is true and everything is permitted.
My name's David Kelly. I play Yori, the warlock of the group, who is obsessed with knowledge and how to attain it.
So they all start at Dr. Agan, or Dragon University, and they basically get told what the school's about. There's 3 classes a day. It is combat class, literature class, and dragon class. By the end of episode 1, they've all been placed into their house. There are 7 houses of Dragon University: Tracker, Stoker, Sharp, Strike, Title, Mystery, and Boulder. The 3 of them end up being roommates, all part of the Tracker class, and the first episode ends with them picking out dragon eggs. So they all have their own dragon egg. The town that Dragon University is in is called Burke. The chief of that city is Stoic. The headmaster of Dragon University is Gandalf twice. Episode 2 begins with some introductions and some fun facts about the characters. The most important fact was that Art, who is currently raised by his uncle because his parents died in a fire started by goblins.
Art's uncle forced him to raise a wolf, only to then hunt it as his first kill, if that explains anything about their relationship.
In this episode, we also meet a character named Hermione twice. She is one of the dorm moms, and she hangs out in the library a lot. In the second episode, the party kind of just explores Burke. They visit a few stores, and they eventually read several quests on a quest board, one of which was finding a ring in the Ilex Forest that's north of the city of Burke. Episode 3 is the first day of classes. They go to combat class. Art and Yori end up having the duel in the middle of class as a demonstration. Yori, the warlock, wins handily. The teacher of the combat class is Don Donaldson. They also go to Dragon class and learn about the Stoker class. The teacher of the Dragon class is Jessica. Then they also go to their first literature class, and the teacher of that class is Juan. In episode 4, they actually go into the Ilex Forest in search of the ring. Loaf successfully uses his mage hand to steal the ring from a spider who was in possession of the ring. In the forest, they find multiple powerful items. They find a spanking spoon.
What is that item?
Which Art attaches to and uses it as his primary weapon. Loaf finds the Ring of Swapping, which allows you to swap places with another person who's wearing the Ring of Swapping, but only if you're a willing unit. So you could try to swap, and if the person doesn't want to swap, then they won't swap. Yori founds the Eye of the Tiger. This is a ring that allows him to redirect attacks on occasion. So whenever he's attacked, he can roll a dice. Based on the roll, he can redirect the attack to another target. In this episode, they also find out that only half of the students of Dragon University actually pass. Every final exam is a 1v1 of sorts, and you have to pass 2 of your final exams to pass the Dragon University. And that you only get to keep your dragon if you pass. They also run into a man selling boozle beans, to which they ate some of the boozle beans. Boozle beans were this homebrew item where you basically get to eat a bean boozled in real life. If it was a good bean, a good effect happens. If it was a bad bean, you got poisoned. Episode 5 was day 2 of classes, where they learned about Dragon Balls, which work a lot like Pokeballs. They learned about their badges and some Agni Kais. The combat final exam will be an Agni Kai 1v1. This is where Loaf begins to flirt with Hermione for the first time.
You see Hermione walk out of the library and walk over to Loaf and say, "Hey, Loaf, how's it going?"
Low-key slide the ring on, try to look a little fresh, you know?
And then we end the episode with the party going to return the ring that they found in the forest to its owner, but Loaf feels the urge that someone's trying to swap places with him, which he accepts. He ends up switching places with a vampire, a peaceful vampire. Burke is weird. Episode 6, they meet Doofenshmirtz and Buffy. Buffy works with a gnome named Doofenshmirtz, and they work at the PS1, which stands for not PlayStation 1, the Potion Shop 1. They go to the 3rd day of classes in this episode as well. In episode 7, we learn a lot about Loaf's backstory, about his parents, Bazine and Margarine, how Bazine raided Margarine's village and claimed her as his wife. We learn more about Art's parents, being named Thomas and Elise, and how they died in a fire started by goblins. So Art has a thing against goblins. He also has a thing against half-bloods. So him and Yori have been really at it. And this is where the party gets their first real combat against some goblins. Yes, it took 7 episodes before they got combat. Hence why we're skipping over some of these episodes. They handily deal with the goblins. Episode 8 is the 4th day of classes. Hermione has this black stone that she's been prioritizing and doing research on. It's called the Burke Stone. And they accept a mission to help Hermione because she seems to have misplaced it, or it was stolen. They end up meeting a guy named Malphite, beating him up, interrogating him.
So what, are we roughing this guy up a little bit?
Yeah, peg him.
Art walks up and slaps Malphite across the face.
And he ended up being the person who had stolen the stone. So they end up going and finding the stone and returning it to Hermione. This is also the episode where Art's egg hatches, and he is blessed with a Rumblehorn dragon, who he names Hogarth.
I'm so excited! Come on!
Here is your baby Rumblehorn.
And it's a tracker class! That's sick! Art's like geeking out right now.
In episode 9, we learn about Loaf having a dog named Bernard growing up. Loaf ends up stealing a ring from a goblin named Mike. Stoic recruits the party to go to Mahogany Town in search of a man named Valakut. Valakut was supposed to be in a High Council meeting with Gandalf and with Stoic. So Stoic just wants them to go to him and make sure that he's alright, and to report back. Stoic ends up hiring the party to go to Mahogany Town, which is nearby on Burke Island. It's nearby Burke. And so they go and visit Mahogany Town. Yori ends up buying some Brawler's Gloves, a homebrew item that lets you, if you have 2 Brawler's Gloves, you get to attack with both hands, even if you don't have 2 attacks. In episode 10, the party begins talking about quiche.
His favorite food is quiche.
It ends up being an inside joke as the campaign progresses.
Tell us more about quiche.
Yeah, of course. Really, with quiche, it's a pretty
They
dynamic.
get on a train
breakfast, lunch,
to
or dinner
Mahogany
food.
Town,
You can
and
have
underground, almost in the Underdark. We have an equivalent to the Underdark in this realm called the Dark Below. They ride the midnight train in the Dark Below, and there's some muggers that attempt to mug them, and they end up killing 3 of them. Once they arrive in Mahogany Town, they head to the Patreon Club, where the bouncer tries to buy some of their items off of them, and then Yori ends up just getting a membership for 3 gold pieces, going in, grabbing all the different maps that the Patreon Club had available, and that's where we're going to pick up in episode 11, is just outside the Patreon Club, where the party is in Mahogany Town, trying to fulfill a quest for Stoic. And that's the summary. So pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, grab your dice, and let's go ahead and get into the adventure. I'll see you at episode 11.